Coach, how excited are you to have the potential that Michael Cooper brings for his senior year?
Yeah, we're really, really excited about Coop. He's been with us a long time. He's played a lot of football for us. He's a really good football player, but more importantly to me right now, he's doing a great job as a leader of the group. I think that's really important when you're in spring practice.
What is it that he brings as a leadership quality? Like you said, he's been there for 4 years, but what's unique to him as a leader on this team in your group?
Yep. I think that's really simple. Anytime your best player is your hardest worker, that's a good thing. That's not a good thing. That's a great thing. So all the younger guys can see how hard he works. And he is by far our hardest worker that we have in the wide receiver room, maybe on the whole entire team. So the younger guys can just watch him. And I just tell the guys, just go watch how he practices. Watch how he comes out to practice, pre-practice, everything he does. And he doesn't say a ton. He speaks when he needs to, but it's more by his actions, what he's doing, that the guys can just watch him.
And follow and see the success that he has with the way he plays and practices?
Correct. Then it translates, how he practices is how he usually plays on Saturdays. He's played a lot of really, really good football for us on Saturdays.
What is it about the receiver position at Navy that's so unique to having seniors play so well? It seems like each year there's another senior who steps up and really displays leadership qualities, both on and off the field, each season.
Yep. I think our room is really unique and special, that every single year the senior wide receivers are the hardest workers, are the guys that set the example for the guys. We have a really, really good culture in our room. So if you're a younger guy, you get to see that. Day one, you're going to see the seniors working harder than you at practice, doing things. So when you can watch guys do that, if you're a younger guy, if you're a freshman, you come in and watch that, to see the seniors working that hard, it makes it really easy for me. I say all the time, my guys, they coach themselves. By the time they become seniors, they're the one that demand how hard we practice. They set the standard to where, I shouldn't have to say a whole lot, because those guys are going to grab guys and make sure that we're practicing and playing the way that the silverback way, as we call it.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Bill Bergman.
Hey, Coach. Mark Walker, what type of growth do you want to see out of him this spring?
Yeah, the great thing I'm seeing out of Mark right now is he's got a bum hamstring, and he's been hurt all spring. And I was really, really happy to see him practicing, because it would have been really easy at spring football. We're not getting ready to play a game. We are and we aren't. So it'd be really easy for Mark to say, my hamstring's hurt, and sit out practice. He's not missed a single practice, a single rep. And I think that was one of the things that we talked about with Mark. Mark is super talented. We all know that. I wanted to see him get a little bit tougher this spring. And I haven't said anything to Mark. And he's the one that continues to go out there every day. You see him limping and struggling. And Mark can run, and he's not running great this spring, but he's out there battling.
The other guys on the depth chart, we've seen Gleaton before, but could you just go into a little more detail on Mays, Coleman, and Kamari Williams?
Yep. Yeah, so a couple of those guys, I guess one guy, Zach came to us in the middle of last year, Zach Coleman, and he's having a really, really good spring. Unfortunately, he got hurt on Saturday. Now he'll miss the rest of spring ball and have a little bit of time off. But Zach has done a great job for us. He was an A-back that we moved over to the wideout midway through last year. I think he's really coming to his own this spring, as far as making plays and understanding what we do and how we play. But he's got a toughness about him on the football field that I guess I didn't get to see last year, because I didn't get him out there on Saturdays. So really happy about him. Kamar's a young guy, a freshman for us, who actually has been taking some big steps this spring as well. I think he's learning. Again, this all goes to the credit of Cooper and our older seniors. But I think Kamari just needed to understand how we play and practice. And that's what I've seen out of Kamari this spring, is a guy that's coming to work, lunch pail mentality of grinding and getting after it. We asked him to lose a little bit of weight. We thought he was a little bit heavy. He did that. Everything we asked him to do, Kamari's been doing. So we're really happy where he's at. And Michael Nays is a guy that's been in the program for a while, and has not said anything, has just come to work every single day. Now he's getting an opportunity, and he's playing pretty good this spring. He's like anybody, he's got stuff to work on, but I'm really happy where he's at. He's probably far along than we thought he'd be at this point. So we're excited to see him in these next 7 practices as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike James.
Hey, Coach. When you were a player, you had a kind of a reputation of being kind of a hard-nosed guy and someone willing to do just about anything that the team needed in order to win. I mean, to the point where you volunteered to punt at one point. Is that the kind of thing that you look for in your own players? Maybe not punting, but just that overall attitude.
Yeah, there's a wide receiver creed that we recite every day. One of the players do, and being selfless is one of the top things our guys have to be. Being tough, like you said, is one of the things they have to be, or for me, they won't play. I guess that's always been my nature from the time I was a young boy. I never was the most talented guy, but as far as being able to work hard, be tough, those are things that anybody can do. And that's what we try to get out of our room. And I think we have a really, really good room full of guys that are tough as crap, that work hard, that'll do anything for the team, that selfless mentality. We were talking about today, we just got out of meetings about guys being all about the team, had a good discussion about it. And I think my guys really understand that. And again, I'll go back to Coop a lot. It starts from the top. When your best player, we had a practice this spring where Coop didn't have a single catch. This is a guy that we throw the ball to. We went a whole practice. He didn't touch the football. He didn't say a single thing. He didn't say one thing, Coach, I didn't get the ball at all at practice. He said, Coach, did I work hard enough today at practice? That's all he was worried about. So that's the mentality that we have in the room that has taken a while to establish, and that's our culture.
You have some returning experience there in among your position, which is kind of a contrast to what you have at quarterback this year. Are there things that a veteran wide receiver can do to help a learning quarterback along?
Yeah, I think they can catch the ball anytime it gets thrown near them to build a quarterback's confidence. That's one thing that they can definitely do. And they can just be a calming presence for a quarterback. If there's a practice where all of a sudden they run a route and they're open, they don't get the ball, you don't come back and get after the quarterback. There's a right way to do things and a wrong way. And I think all my guys have great relationships with the young quarterbacks because all our quarterbacks are young right now, and more of a mentoring deal with those guys. And hey, whatever you need, if you need me to come out and throw balls after practice, even though my legs may be tired, I'll go run and do whatever it takes to help those guys. So really, really happy how my guys are interacting with our quarterbacks.
Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Randy Cross.
Make sure I'm not muted. Yeah, thanks, Coach. Appreciate you being here. Hey, got a question about your group. When you review tape and you watch practices, you watch games, do you keep track of different bogeys, as far as putting your guy on the ground, a pancake block, critical downfield block that comes in at the end of the play? Do you guys track that?
We do. Some of it's called a knock. We just call it a knockdown if you knock a guy down. Or you can get a double plus for a great downfield block that sprung a touchdown, just like you could get a double plus for making a big touchdown catch. So we absolutely look at that, and we'll spend a lot more time on the great block than the great catch. I promise you that. And showing the guys, especially the younger guys, can see, listen, this is going to get praised way more than a one-hand diving catch. Not that we don't praise the diving catch and say great job, but we want to make sure they understand how important it is that we do our job. And that's what we talk about a lot, of doing your job. And that's running 80 yards down the field sometimes to make that block. And that may be just from winning or losing the game. We've also showed up examples in games where a wideout doesn't make a block and we may lose a close game, and how critical it is to our success. So we really, really emphasize that on a daily basis.
And for you guys as a staff, you've got some fine gentlemen there at the university, at the academy. But is it tougher nowadays to identify those team first guys, the guys that that aren't going to mind not catching a pass in practice and catching maybe a dozen, 15 balls through the course of a season?
Yeah, I think that's probably the hardest thing we have to do in recruiting is you can watch the tape and see, man, this kid's a really good player. But the thing that Coach Niemot does a great job with us is he makes sure we dissect them as a person. Who is this guy? Yeah, I can see the film that he's a really good football player, but will he fit our culture? Will he fit in your room? Is he going to be a selfless guy? So we take a hard look at that in recruiting and ask certain questions. And you never know for sure till they get here. But I think we've done a pretty good job over the years. I know I've been here 10 seasons now. I'm going on my 11th season. And I feel like I've coached all great kids that work hard, that are selfless, that are team guys.
That's great. Thanks, Coach.
You're welcome.
Bill Wagner.
Hey, Mick, Phil ran down the list of names of guys. That depth chart is from the beginning of spring. Are there some wide receivers he did not mention that have shown up and are maybe in the mix to be on that depth chart?
Yeah, the one guy who's, and I shouldn't say one guy, but one guy that's moved up a little bit on the depth chart is John Marr, is Connery Marr's brother, who was a quarterback, who we moved into the room. He's practiced really well lately. Now he's still learning what to do. You know, his kid was a quarterback and always was a quarterback, so he's learning how to play wide receiver. But he's done some things on tape that kind of that jumps out at you. So he's moving up a little bit. He's in the mix. These next 7 practices will be really critical for him. He's basically earned more reps now. You know, early on, sometimes you only get a few reps, and as a coach, you always tell the players, take advantage of whatever reps you get. If you do well, you may get more, or you will get more. And for John's case, he's starting to get more and more reps. So we're going to keep throwing him in the fire and see what happens.
I remember when they were plebes, in August training camp, seeing Marcel Gleaton and Michael Cooper together and thinking, wow, these are 2 really tall, long, good-looking receivers. Obviously, Coop has made a major impact during his career, but Marcel, you know, he hasn't been able to really. It's always something, an injury or whatever. Can you talk about Marcel a little bit? And you know, this is it for him now.
Yeah. Production-wise, last year, you know, as far as catching the football, Marcel wouldn't have had a great year. But for what his role was last year for us, he graded out the best. Now, his role was a lot different than Michael Cooper and Mark Walker's. You know, he did not have nearly the amount of reps. But for us, he actually did what we want him to do. Now, we need him to take the next step this year and be able to get more involved in the passing game. You know, not a ton, but a little bit more involved in the passing game, and then continue to have his role as being that enforcer. I mean, he got after some people last year where sometimes you don't see that on tape unless you're, you know, rewinding it 4 or 5 times, some of the stuff he did. But we absolutely still want him to take another step. There's definitely more. I know Marcel wants to be better. The kid works extremely hard. He strives to be great. So I think you're going to see a little bit more out of Marcel this year.
Do you anticipate moving anyone else over to receiver, or do you think that at this point the group you have is what you'll take into August training camp?
We could move more guys tomorrow. So and a lot of time they get moved into the room based off injuries and different things. So I don't know. I would imagine we may get some more, but we'll wait and see.
And Coach Jasper was saying that Ty Lavatai and Masai are 2 of the better throwers Navy's had. He kind of like them to Ricky Dobbs in terms of their ability to sling it around. Are you seeing that as your wide receivers group, seeing that as they do 7-on-7 passing drills or whatever the case may be?
Yeah, Ty threw a ball to Mark Walker. I guess it was last week, early in the week, that was one of the better balls I've seen thrown out on the practice field. I mean, unbelievable, down the field from one hash to the other side of the field and hit him in strides. Like, holy cow. But those 2 guys can really, really sling it. As for a wide receiver, obviously you're really, really happy when you got a quarterback that can get you the ball. So we've seen that.
Thanks, Mick.
Welcome.
Graham Knight.
Hey, Coach, Graham Knight with Behind the Lines. I want to talk a little bit about the rhythm of spring season versus the rhythm of what it was like last season. You know, we're kind of in the second part of the COVID pandemic and the variant, now the dominant force. You know, one of the things and themes that came up last season was that it was hard for the team to actually find that rhythm. You know, the team's kind of used to a normal Monday rhythm and getting through the week, but that was constantly interrupted. I'm just kind of curious, now that we're in the second round of the pandemic, are you guys able to get into a rhythm? Do you find that you kind of able to get into stride with practices and what's happening with spring ball?
Yep. I know for me personally, I'm a people person. So those virtual meetings were hard. I like seeing guys. I like being around people. So the biggest thing for me, and I think for our entire staff, is we're in-person meeting with the guys now. During the season, the majority of the season, almost the whole season, it was all virtual meetings. It's the only time you'd see your guys as you come to practice. And then at the same point, the guys couldn't spend much time in the locker room. They couldn't even hang out with each other much. And that's tough. I think some schools are probably okay with that. But for us, we're the closest team in the country. That's your coaches, that's your players. So I think that affected us big time last year, that personal touch that I think we spend a lot of time on. So just being able to get the guys back up in our meeting rooms every single day in person and see them and touch them and be around them is a huge difference for us. And it's really, really helped us. And I know over time I got better as a teacher on the virtual stuff, but it took a while to different techniques. How do you teach on virtual stuff? So it's good to have them back in the routine. I know the guys love it as well. And you can just see them bonding again, just that bonding stuff that they do that they've always done in the past. I think we missed a lot of that last year.
Yeah, you were talking about the commitment to the team and the selfless player and the tough player. Navy, just always admired Navy's commitment to go in and just, it didn't matter what the score was, going to give it all till the end. I didn't notice any difference in terms of how the team played together, given the virtual experience. I know it was tough. It didn't seem like that impacted you guys much, did it?
You could say yes and no. I mean, just the dynamic was so different for us, and in the way we had to practice and do certain things. It was a strange year all around. Our main goal last year was to keep the players safe. I mean, Coach Nehemiah, he's the greatest head coach in the country, and he cares about his people. That's why he's the best head coach in the country. I know I got a 12-year-old son and a 7-year-old son. He's the only guy I'd want them playing for. I can tell you that right now, just because he's a great man. So it was tough last year, but we're going to get it fixed and get back to what we call our normal here this season.
You mentioned the Silverback way. Do you mind just breaking that down a little bit? What exactly do you mean by the Silverback way?
Yep. So we call ourselves, and we've had for a long time here, our room, we call ourselves the Silverbacks, after a silverback gorilla. And this started a long time ago. And the reason we do that is the silverback gorilla is one of the most fierce and violent animals out there. But the only time they're really violent and fierce is when they're protecting their own. So they're big and family. And to me, that, when we first started thinking about, what do we want to be known for? We want to be known for family first, that we love each other. But at the same time, do not be confused that we are going to get after your butt if you mess with one of us. And so that's why we break down every meeting after practice with Silverback, and that's where it came from.
Well, so obviously we can't start off without asking about Diego. I mean, I know he's become more of a leader. I mean, do you see him acting, behaving like a potential captain?
Absolutely. He's doing everything that we could possibly ask for him in terms of the leadership position, and then some. And I think the best leader I've been around is Coach Niumatalolo, and just the way that he shows our guys how to serve, that servant leadership mentality. And I think I've seen it grow every year that Diego's been here, and really from first semester to second semester, I've just been blown away with him. Just his approach, the way he really controls everything in our room, linebacker wise, and then defensively as well. He's got a very calming nature to him right now. But at the same time, he knows when he needs to get after somebody's butt a little bit and make sure that they're in line with what they need to be in line with. So I think that's a big piece of it, is knowing your clientele, knowing that your peers, knowing the guys on the team, and he knows those guys, and he's able to get them going, each in a little different fashion.
I think Coach Newberry said, and I don't know at what point of the season this was, that Tama was still kind of getting back to his old self because of recovering from the injury. And I was wondering if in the spring, are you starting to see Tama maybe back to the way he was before the injury freshman year?
Yeah, I think one of the things with Tama was, unfortunately, he tore his ACL in the South Florida game his freshman year, and he needed an off-season rehab, all that stuff. And then COVID-19 hits in March, and he's at home missing valuable time where he could be rehabbing his knee with people in front of him, with all the expertise that we have around here with our doctors, our athletic training staff. And he missed a lot of valuable time doing that. And then he comes back and, wasn't quite himself throughout the beginning and middle of the year last year. And then towards the end of the year, really started playing with more of that aggression, that violence, that trigger that we're used to seeing him play with. And I think that's what Coach Newberry's talking about, and Tama, he's been banged up a little bit this spring, working through some things, but he's a heck of a linebacker, and we've got extremely high expectations for him next year. And I think he's extremely comfortable with what we're doing schematically, and he's going to be back full force, flying around, getting after it.
So two other linebackers that got pretty good experience last year were Johnny Hodges and Terrell Adams. Now, obviously, that was because Tama was out at times, and both of them, I think, may have started games, Johnny and Terrell. But you're less experienced behind Diego at Mike. Is Johnny and Terrell not really capable of playing Mike? Because it seems like maybe if you have two experienced guys, you could, put one of them at the other linebacker spot, so there's a better chance they both can get on the field.
That's a great question. Johnny Hodges really has the ability to play Mike. Has played a lot of Mike for us this spring. We've been dual training him at both positions. Tama has the ability to play both positions as well, and has for us, and played again at SMU when we lost Diego. He slid over there, and Terrell went in at will. So he's got the ability to play both spots as well. And then Terrell's more of a will for us. It could possibly go play striker if we had to dual train him as well. And then you got some young guys coming along. Will Harbor's had a phenomenal spring so far through 8 practices. Really looking forward to seeing him, how he continues to develop over the second half of this spring. But we definitely have some depth at the position that was created probably from injuries last year, getting banged up, and then guys just getting older, getting more seasoned, continuing to grow, continue to develop, learning the scheme, continue to learn the culture, and just learn how we play the position. So I think this year will be the most depth we've had at linebacker since I've been here, and I'm really I'm jacked up about it, because I think we're going to be able to put have healthy competition for the travel squad, have healthy competition for first, second, and third string. I think it's just going to make our team better. It's going to make our special teams better. We're becoming to a point linebacker wise where we've going to have the depth that we want.
Last one for me. So Mitchell Johns was listed as the backup behind Diego at Mike going into the spring. Is he being challenged by Johnny Hodges or maybe someone else, or what are you seeing behind Diego at Mike?
Yeah, he's being challenged. None of that stuff's solidified yet. I mean, we're halfway through, and I just told the guys today at 12:25 during our meeting. I mean, nothing's new really anymore. This is spring for freshmen. I always think when it's new, they're coming out, they're trying to show their best selves, do all that stuff. This is when really you see guys start to separate themselves, during the second half of spring. See who's tough. Nobody's going to be 100%. Nobody's going to be extremely healthy, but you're going to see guys that have that toughness, have that grit, to be able to go out there and continue to perform. And the benefit of spring is you got days off in between practices and things like that. Once the fall gets, I mean, it's boom, 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 fall camp. And then, as you guys know, and then game after game after game with the training in between. So we got to take advantage of these next 2 weeks. And I really want to see these guys really see that grit that we're looking for as we continue to develop that culture in the room. But nobody's solidified their position yet. There's a ton of competition there, and I love it. But I wouldn't say anybody's won or lost that job yet. Thanks, Wags.
Randy Cross.
Thank you. Hey, Coach, with the style of defense that you and Coach Newberry play there, what are some of the unique skill sets or tools, if you will, that your linebackers have to have in their kind of tool belt to be able to play in this defense? Because I know a football fan or football people have a certain mentality as to what a linebacker is and what a linebacker does. But in some of these kind of new age defenses like you guys play, they got to be a part DB, part safety, part linebacker, part defensive end. I mean, Diego's a great example with all the stuff he led you guys in last year.
Yeah, I think the number one thing they have to be is, and that's a phenomenal question. They've got to be a leader. We're going to put things on them in terms of being able to make calls for us on the field, on the front end and on the back end. They've got to be a leader. They've got to be guys. And I don't think that's ever changed from when you played to when I played. You know, you play in the inside linebacker position. It's got to be a guy that inspires confidence in his teammates. And when he's out there, that they know that he's in charge or they're in charge, and they know that they're going to help put them in the best position to be successful. So I think leadership, number one. Skill set wise, they have to be guys that can run all day and have to be guys that can scrape inside out, play sideline to sideline, play at an extremely high tempo. We hang our hat on being the guys that being the defense that plays the hardest in the country, you know, and that might sound crazy to some people, but that's what we want when we turn on the film. Is we want them to feel like there's 13, 14 guys flying around out there. There's a couple clips towards the end of the season. We're playing Memphis and Tulsa, and they throw a bubble or hitch screen to the boundary, and we got, to the field, and we have all 11 guys outside the hash on a 2-yard gain. Like that's what we want to see every play, and we want to be able to inspire our teammates with that. You know, you've got to be a little bit of everything though defensively for us playing linebacker wise. You got to be a guy that can run all day, but you got to be a guy that can fill the A gap and take on a 320-pound pulling guard as well. And those guys are hard to find, but we think that they're out there, and we think that we have a unique ability to be able to sell them a lot of different things in the recruiting process here with what we do schematically, obviously football wise, but you know, the education, the obviously big time football, big time education, and then, you know, the guaranteed career path afterwards, which really allows us to be able to get some guys that we think can make a difference here. But I think that's a great question. There's a spot in our defense for a lot of different people. You don't have to just be a D end. You don't have to just be an inside linebacker. Any of those hybrid positions, you know, those guys that can play linebacker, play safety can fit for us. I just watched a safety 10 minutes ago, you know, that I'm recruiting as a will linebacker, you know, and I think that's thing that's changed drastically in the last 10 years recruiting wise.
That's great. I'm good, Coach. Thanks.
Thank you.
Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, you know, we've talked about the leadership qualities that Diego has and those kind of attributes that he has there. What physically makes him such a dominant player, the physical attributes that he brings to the team?
Well, I mean, if I could create a Mike linebacker, it would be in his mold. I mean, he's 6'2", he's about 235 right now. So he's down about 7 pounds from what he played at last year. And he's really down almost 15 pounds from what he played at his freshman year. So he's really bought into the nutritional piece of things, leaning his body out, lean muscle. But I mean, he's 6'2 3/4. I think the NFL scouts just got him at. He's 235, 237 pounds. I mean, he can squat a house. He can clean a house. Bench press wise, he's the same way. So everything that he does, strength wise, speed wise, he's topped over 20 miles an hour several times on the GPS. He does a great job changing direction as well. I just don't think I could ask for anything more linebacker wise. I'd be extremely greedy if I asked for anything else. He's got all the tools to be able to do what we need to ask him to do physically. There's no doubt about that. And then he's extremely smart. I mean, he challenges me as a coach daily. I mean, I better bring my A game to the meeting room. If I'm off a little bit, he's going to make sure he lets me know about it.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Yep, no problem. My pleasure. Thanks, Scott.
Mike James.
Hey, Coach. We've all watched a lot of football, and I don't think in a particular season that we've ever seen a night and day performance in terms of run defense from the beginning of last year to how your guys are performing at the end of last year. What was the difference between the two ends? Was it just a question of guys getting healthy and the young guys learning to run to the right gaps, or was there something else that you picked up on?
I think it's a combination of those things and more. We've got a recipe for success around here, and we sort of took out a couple of the components. Losing spring ball, practicing the way we did during fall camp. We just weren't sure, and of the virus and really what it was. Got a better understanding of that now, and toughness is like discipline. You the same way you are with your kids. If you're easy on your kids when they're young and then try to double back on them a little bit later and start to crack on them discipline wise, it doesn't quite work like that. And it's the same way with toughness, and physicality. And we didn't start the year off the way we wanted to, physical wise. And it took us a long time to recover from that. We instituted a couple of different things in practice to help teach the defense, and we changed a few things personnel wise that, we're to truth be told with it, personnel wise going into games, probably things we would have saw during fall scrimmages and spring scrimmages. We saw playing, teams in countable games early in the season, unfortunately. But I think we had phenomenal leadership from Jackson Perkins in particular on the defensive side of the ball. I think he brought a great attitude. It's easy to, when in 2019, when you're 11-2 and you're whipping people's butt every week and winning, it's easy to lead those types of teams. When going through a losing streak and things aren't the way that you expected it your senior year, that's when you really see the character of people. And I think that's what impressed me with Jackson, the way he led our defense. I think he was a phenomenal role model for Diego in terms of leadership moving forward. And then, we implemented an inside run period where we really just buckled up and got after it the second half of the season. And I think our guys really responded to that, and the physical nature of that, but also the knowledge of where they need to be and when they need to be there and how they need to fit certain runs. So I think all those things combined help us continue to improve. And I think Coach Newberry did an awesome job just learning who our personnel was and what they were able to do, and not just say, hey, this is what we want to be. Let's try to fit our personnel to what we want to be. We started fitting our scheme a little bit to what our personnel was able to accomplish at that point in the season as well.
So given the knowledge that they did pick up and kind of getting that trial by fire, is that paying dividends that you're seeing so far this spring, that maybe you're able to introduce a little bit more than you would have normally if they hadn't gotten that experience?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, reps are gold. So the more reps we can get with guys, the better it's going to be for them. And their knowledge base is a heck of a lot better now because they had those reps in, live fire situations, and we're able to be out on the field and have those reps. And we're playing defense at a high level right now. And I expect us, and we got a long ways to go, don't get me wrong, but I expect us to continue to improve. And we're definitely headed in the right direction. Absolutely. Really, really excited about where we're at. And I couldn't be more happy about where we're going.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thanks.
Bill Bergman.
Coach, just between fall and this time, what differences are you seeing at the linebacker positions being able to have hitting in practices?
Just the like I was talking about earlier, the physical nature of the position. I mean, I was talking with Danny in the O-line, like, going against the bag or a sled or things like that. I mean, there's obviously a point to that, create muscle memory, but getting instant feedback by some dude trying to knock your head off it, one of those reps is about I don't know, maybe equal to 15 or 20 reps on a bag or a sled, and that's probably being gracious, to be honest with you. So I think just that instant feedback of, football is a game of one-on-one battles. You break it down, you got to do your job, obviously, but your job generally is at some point to beat the heck out of one guy out there, and you either win or you lose that particular rep. And to get that instant feedback, there's nothing that a sled or a bag could simulate in terms of that. And we've got a lot of proud guys around here. We've had coaches get on us and say our guys are laying on the ground or whatever to stop the clock and things like that. No, we got to tell guys to go down because they don't want to cut, because they don't want to show injury. I mean, these are some tough dudes around here. So to just have that out there at practice, it's that iron sharpens iron mentality. It is. We cannot replicate that in any form or fashion. There's only one way to play ball, and that's to play ball.
Thank you.
Graham Knight.
Hey, Coach. Graham Knight from Behind the Lines. I want to go back and talk about Diego just for a second. Got a little beat up last season. Just curious, is there any of that still a factor as he's starting to look towards the next season?
He's healthy right now. He did get beat up last year from time to time, just health wise. Got a high ankle sprain that just sort of kept recurring. Athletic training staff, strength staff doing a phenomenal job with him right now, just getting him in the best shape that he possibly can be. And to be honest with you, nutrition staff as well. And that's a major focus for us, is to make sure that he's as healthy as possible going into the spring, and you're never going into the fall, and you're never going to be 100%. I mean, day one is about it. After that, you're going to be sore. He's going to be, but being able to play through those things, Diego's shown time and time again, he's able to play through those things. And I think a lot of it has to do with the nature of how he plays the game. He only knows one way to play the game, and he plays it at game speed, whether it's practice, now in the spring going against triple option, or it's against the scout team, giving us a look going into a week. He only knows one way to play. But with that being said, I think he's learned a little bit of I need to take care of myself in this manner to make sure that I'm able to play the way that I want to play when Saturday rolls around. Yeah,
he is definitely an all-in player. Hey, you mentioned the NFL scouts clocked him at 20 miles an hour. Is he likely to be one of those? And maybe I missed a headline or something. Is he likely to be one of those players to go from academy to the service to the pros?
So we wear GPSs to practice every day, and he's beat 20 miles an hour several times. So that's where that came from. They didn't come out and clock him and do all that type of stuff yet. They came and measured him just like they did all of our other guys. But I certainly think he has the ability to play at the next level. I think he has the tools that are necessary. I think he's got the work ethic to be able to do that. There's things that we certainly need to work with him on. Pad level, space play are big things, and those really go hand in hand. And he knows that. That's the major emphasis for us this spring with him. But I definitely think he has the ability to do so, and I think a team is going to love him when they get him into camp.
Yeah, no doubt. Phil took my other question about contacts, so thank you, Coach. Nice work, Phil. Oh, one for your team.
I'll go ahead and make another run through. Wags.
Well, so with respect to Diego, and He's so experienced and so talented. Do you think you may do some different things with Diego this coming season?
You're gonna have to ask the wizard on that, but there's probably something in the works. We can't give away all the secrets here, Wags. You know that.
Is that it, Wags? Randy Cross. You're muted, Randy.
That's not like me to be that polite. Hey, Coach, how nice was it? You talked a little bit about this already, but to have your guys sort of develop that body callus that you get after a week or two of actually playing football and running into guys. And for you as a staff, you can get back to approaching practice and actually scheduling practice and drills almost, like there's never been any of that whole pandemic thing, that you're just back to regular football. Is that true?
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't be more spot on. I mean, it last year was just an interesting year for all of us, just trying to work through different things. We learned a lot from it, but football is football, and I think here, I got a lot of buddies in coaching, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's got to be terrible to go against triple option every day in practice. But defensively, the reason I love it is you got to bring it every day. And if you don't bring it every day, you play an inside zone play and maybe you misfit it a little bit, generally doesn't go to the house. Playing triple option, if you misfit triple option and you don't go get your gap, it probably is going to go to the house. So you have to be on point day in and day out when you come here, and you're going to play tackle football when you come here as well. I mean, it's just the physical nature of it. And I love that that's the mentality and the culture that we create here. And we missed that last year, point blank, missed it. And I think as a staff, Coach Newberry does a phenomenal job with how we teach the fundamental skills of tackling. Coach Downing and I were talking the other day, like when we played, like we just, Coach would watch the film and be like, you need to tackle that guy. Like here, we're going to break down all the, the skills of actually how to get them to the ground. But at the same point, you got to still get them to the ground. So I think you're spot on with just that callous, that hardening, that toughness. And that's what we're creating here at Navy. And Coach Niamat's done a great job doing that for all these years here. And I'm really fortunate to be here and have an opportunity to do this spring. It's awesome. We couldn't ask for more.